Sportin Wales podcast, powered by Sinclair Group, your go-to for Welsh sports news and views. Welcome back to another pod of Sportin Wales, and I'm back from Australia. It's been a while. Today we have an awful lot to chat through, haven't we, with the WRU coming out with proposals. And today we have Rhodri, our senior journalist for Sportin Wales, and our senior Businessin journalist for Businessin, Dan the Phantom Bevan. Sorry, I had to get it in. He loves his darts. So, lads, how are you?
Not bad, thanks, Al. Busy day yesterday, but yeah, still sort of digesting everything from the WRU's announcements.
How many hours were you in the stadium for?
So arrived at the stadium at 9 a.m. or just after 9 a.m. We get given the big 90-page document. Didn't leave until we were kicked out at about. Yeah, there you go.
This one here.
For the viewers on screen.
It's pretty thick. I'm going to read that tonight.
Alex is holding the 90 pages.
I will fall asleep after about 30.
Yeah, until we were kicked out about 4. So yeah, about 7 hours in,
I did
in
warn
the Principality.
You. I did warn
yeah.
you. I had a 2-hour meeting for just one of them the day before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a tough one. Dan, you've been been real busy.
He's always busy, mate. So we've grown a fair bit, and obviously have our own podcast, which we share a studio for. But from a business perspective, it's been really interesting to drill down into the numbers, because a lot of people do criticise the WRU, maybe rightly, for a lack of actual detail. But for this, at the very least, we have a lot. There's a lot of charts and a lot of graphs in that 90 pages, which we'll obviously discuss some of them, and it is available online if people want to know what we're actually talking about here.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. We're literally going to break down all of the A, B, C, D, I guess, as they put, with the 4 teams unequal pay, the 3 equal, 3 unequal, and then the 2, which is the headline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And you're obviously going to be on the WRU side, numbers-wise. You're going to give us all the numbers, because people don't really look at that, do they? So we're looking forward to that. Rod's obviously got all the detail on the actual proposal, so that's going to be good. We're going to break down everything that the WRU have come out, because there's a lot of information. So
absolutely,
we'll start with, I guess, the strategies in terms of the consultation period that they're on now, aren't they? 6 weeks consultation.
Yes. So
talk us through what that actually means, because I think some people are thinking they've made their decision, but they haven't, have they?
No, they haven't. I think one of the points that they were very, very keen to stress, and that I don't think everyone knew going into the day yesterday, was that nothing has been decided yet. Obviously, the headlines that have come out are that the WRU's, what they describe as their optimal system, is to go with 2 clubs. And actually, their optimal system is to go with 2 new clubs. So it wouldn't even be that you would have to look at cutting 2 of the regions. It would be cutting all of them and starting from scratch.
Well, it's getting rid of the region. It won't be classed as a regional.
No, it wouldn't. It would,
2 new franchises.
They would be clubs.
And and I guess they're going to be completely 2 new branded teams.
Yeah.
I think it's also worth pointing out, before we even got to this stage yesterday, it was a lot of mood music that was going around. We had Monday night when Dragons put out their statement as well, saying that elite rugby has to remain in Gwent. There was a 2 or 3 day lead up, and then all the leaks that came out in various media organisations as well, that very much pointed towards that there was a decision that had been made, and that it's more than likely 2 regions that is going to be cut here. That was not how it ended up transpiring.
No.
And I think that's where a lot of people's frustration comes from, is we've got 90 pages of detail and no actual decision.
Yeah, I think that we actually had a meeting. There's a couple of us, sort of, I guess, players that have retired, had a meeting on the Wednesday, along with the players. A lot of the players from all the 4 regions had a meeting before us, and we had a meeting after. We were there for 2 hours, going through just the one module, the
optimal system.
The optimal system that they want, and there was obviously plenty of questions in terms of, are the players going to get paid? Apparently, they're going to get their contracts seen out if it does happen, and so forth. And it's pretty sensitive time, isn't it? I think obviously emotions are high. 6 weeks to do a consultation, is that long enough? Too long?
Well, just to give an idea of what we were up to yesterday on the sporting side of things, after the press conference, I spoke exclusively with Abby Tierney, and one of the questions I asked was, logistically, how do you go about the consultation? Because they've set out a timeline the consultation begins on September 1st, and they say it will finish on September 29th. So that is literally 4 weeks. And then they hope by mid-October to have presented a solution to the board that gets confirmed, and that is when late October is when
31st of October,
everyone knows what the future of Welsh rugby looks like. So Abby was confident that in terms of working around players' schedules, because one of the questions I asked was, you've got the men's pre-season going on currently. The season starts on September 25th, I believe.
But they can't be that conscious, really, thinking that they're going to make the decision in October when the season would have started by then. So,
and one of the things that
timing-wise, they're terrible. Aren't they? For me, timing, I think, a little bit is completely wrong.
One of the things that she did admit was that they worked. Well, they tried to find an optimal time period, and they realised that there wasn't one, because if you do it during the summer, so the players are away on tour. At least the internationals are.
Yeah, but I don't think that makes a difference.
During the season they're playing, so they've worked out this window, at least in the men's pre-season, where they can talk to the players. Now, on the women's side of things, it's even worse, because they're at a World Cup. So their World Cup starts this Saturday. They will, all being well, be there for a month.
But the majority of them they do play abroad. They play in the PWR.
They do, but they will be consulted alongside, and it's not just the players that get consulted. There will be fan groups associated to each of the 4 regions consulted. The owners of the regions will be consulted. Yeah. All the stakeholders in Welsh rugby are going to be going to have their views heard in the next 4 weeks. And I think one of the things that came across, at least from Chairman Richard Collier-Keywood yesterday, was that he thinks, or the aim for the WRU is that all of those views will be heard by the board as well.
Yeah. So, but they obviously got a chair, haven't they? The 3. So that'd be Dave Redden, Abby, Tierney.
So they're the executive.
They're the executive. So they're the ones.
They present to the board what the optimal solution is.
So Dan, put us in context how massive this is as a business. In terms of finances, companies involved, obviously with the regions, and they've obviously got all chief exec. Are they going to be one chief exec? There's loads of different details within it, isn't there?
Well, yeah, it's extremely complicated how you can essentially bring 4 separate companies into one giant company, if that makes any sense.
1/3, I guess. In terms of 2 teams and then the national side.
Exactly, yeah. But the WRU are saying that they want more control, and also that comes into their taking some of their costs away. So something that Rhodri asked Abby about yesterday was specifically about the rugby costs, and it is a huge, huge part of why the regions aren't, for the most part, making any money at the minute. So to drill into the actual numbers, and this was a graph that is in the report.
The known in rugby is making money.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to go to. So £8 million is how much the WRU lost last year. That's the second lowest in the 6 nations.
What's that? Taylor Swift helping that, is it?
Yeah, genuinely. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want Oasis here for 6 weeks, really, not.
Well, I'd like
2 days.
Well, that's why
We'd be all
we're
skint,
about to get on to some of the other money.
Of course.
They're in a better financial situation than other unions.
Yeah,
for sure.
Richard's going to come out.
Let's expand on that, because, for context, Italy lost £5 million last year. Now, obviously, their playing costs are a lot lower. Number of professional regions is lower, but you have to, look at all these numbers in context. England, the RFU, lost £43 million in 2024.
That's with 10 teams, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
On national side, yeah.
But it's still an extremely
It shows how wealthy the
amount of money.
RFU are, that they can take that, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And you can drill into the numbers when it comes to how many teams they're funding, etc. The reality is, as you've already pointed out, nobody in professional rugby is making any money at the minute. Even the Springboks, who are world champions in all 3 professional formats, So it really is a tough time out there financially for businesses in general. Sports, if anything, it's worse. It's very difficult as a fan, as a fan of sports as I am, to look at a football club or a rugby club as a business. Nobody looks at Tesco's in the same way they do a rugby club, because you still spend your hard-earned money at Tesco's, but you're not out there really fighting for for them down the pub when people say, "Oh, I prefer Asda." You're really not going for it like that. So there is a huge element of fan engagement here. That this is where the consultation will have to come in. But obviously, the fans are seen as stakeholders, but there are investors, there are players. Just how much of a voice are the fans going to have? And to just touch on the consultation very quickly before we move on to something else, the fans that I spoke to are asking one very basic question, which is if the WRU have put forward just one of these proposals and said this is our preferred of the four, then what's the point?
Yeah.
They very clearly have this idea. They want to press ahead with it. They don't have to do a consultation. They could just do it.
No, it seems a bit of a tick box. I think that's one of the things I sort of questioned on Wednesday was, is this a money thing? And they pretty much said, yeah. Then why not just back yourself and do it?
Yeah.
But I guess you obviously asked what things will not change.
Yeah.
So what are those?
So
In terms of
I think the pointed question that was asked fairly quickly in the press conference was how much discussion there had been about joining the English Premiership. Now this has been trailed for quite a while. That like we've just mentioned, the RFU themselves are not in the strongest financial position, and potentially Welsh teams joining the English League, where they've seen a number of clubs go under in recent years, would potentially be mutually beneficial. Now,
commercially as well.
yes,
Yeah.
Now, Richard Colley-Keywood was very clear in that because of their current contract with the URC, they have an ambition to what he described as literally compete and win in the URC. Now, I believe that contract, that those licensing contracts run out in 2027, which is already when they're going to be changing the structure.
Yeah, 2 years.
So they are obviously not going to put their colours on the mast and say we want to join the English Premiership. No. So at the moment, they are planning for these teams to join the URC. In terms of the other things that would stay the same, the SRC, the Super Rugby Cymru, will stay in terms of its structure. It's mentioned a fair amount in there about increasing investment.
That has to stay, I think.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And actually, for all the faults in the Welsh rugby structure, the last couple of seasons, the SRC have worked very well in its new structure, I think.
Do you think that could be the union's saving grace in terms of if they do go to 2, but they put a lot of money into the SRC, because then you still have your heritage sort of clubs involved, and you still have that. You don't completely lose the past, but you. Do you know what I mean? But you're still looking that, because that's what Dave Redden said. He's like, you need to forget the past.
Yeah.
This is the new era. Like, that's quite hard. That's tough to even hear from a player who was at Cardiff for 10 years. Because in 10 years' time, if there's no regions, no one's going to be talking about the Ospreys winning the league or Cardiff, winning Europe and stuff, are they?
Oh, but I mean, I'd be fascinated to know your thoughts on this, Alex. But from a fan's point of view, I find it very, very difficult, the idea that somebody would, who is a diehard, say, Dragons fan, be able to support a Cardiff-based, these are all hypotheticals here, a Cardiff-based new entity, even if they get absorbed into it. I just don't see that being a realistic possibility.
I think that's going to be the biggest mountain to climb in terms of getting fans on. Like, obviously, if the two clubs are winning, that will bring in, and that's what happens, isn't it? As soon as teams are winning, people want to be involved, isn't it? Like, it's like, I know this is very out of context, but Manchester City had no one watch them, and then they win everything, and then they still even struggle to sell out their stadiums, don't they now?
Yeah.
Well, I think the difficulty with that is that they had that sort of historic fan base at one point. They'd gone away because they hadn't been winning, but that's the thing. These clubs won't even have that,
Yes. But that's what's in the SRC will probably have to, will be.
At least it gives people.
I think in terms of the legacy, I think a lot of fans will gravitate to their most local SRC clubs, and I think there will probably have to be a conversation to be had about potentially, if the investment is there, potentially expanding the SRC to include more of those people, because the WRU will be crying out for fan revenue because it will be an uphill task to get, if they go through with this optimal system, to get fans, the level of fans that they want at these two new
Well, they're going
clubs
to have to
from the get-go.
They're going to have some pretty good marketing people rebranding 2 new teams and involve, the Gwent region against Cardiff or whatever they want to do. There's a reason, obviously, where Cardiff don't win a lot, do they? Well, they win, but they still get a good crowd every.
Yeah.
Why do those people go to that game? Because they feel involved and feel part of Cardiff, don't they? They're part of the club. That's what they're going to lose, aren't they, if they go to these two sort of, I guess, new entities.
Well, speaking specifically about Cardiff as well, I mean, the Arms Park is a world-renowned, sporting ground.
Cardiff as a club,
of course,
world-renowned.
Yeah, no, but I remember walking around Cardiff once, and there were 2 Kiwis who were taking photos of, I assumed the Millennium Stadium, and I was wearing a Welsh rugby jersey, and they stopped me and said something to do with Welsh rugby, and we were chatting, and I said, "Oh, have you come to see the Principality, the Millennium as it was then?" And they went, "No, we want to see the Arms Park." Yeah, and that's the level that we're talking here.
Yeah.
We've got exciting news. Jaguar Land Rover, Cardiff and Newport are now part of the Sinclair Group. For over 80 years, we've been trusted across Wales, built on family values and driven by expertise. Jaguar and Land Rover represent heritage, innovation and performance, just like us. And we're here to make every journey on and off the road feel extraordinary. Join us for the next chapter and belong for good. Sinclair Jaguar Land Rover, Cardiff and Newport. The extraordinary journey continues. Welcome to the family.
Right, let's move on. Let's talk about the model, shall we? Because I think we want to break down these 4 because people, we want people to understand it. Because I don't think many people would have read the 90 pages, by now anyway.
I think a lot of people have read some headlines.
Yeah. Exactly. So here we go. So we got Model A, which is 4 teams, unequal funding, aka 2+2 model. So key points, I guess, would be similar to the current system. Most likely that the regions will stay the same. Requires the second most funding by the W, so 120 mil over 5 years.
Yep.
Squads
that's
of 45.
That's per team, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
That's per team.
45 players plus 20 academy players, same of all models.
Yeah.
So
in terms of those 4 models, the playing staff would be the same for all 4. So it'd be 45 on your senior squad and 20 on the academy squad. We will get later to their optimal system, which Abby described as a D+, which actually has 50 players but has less non-Welsh qualified players. So you are
only have 1 in number 15.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, it would be 1 per 15 in their optimal system. They would only have 1 non-Welsh player in the team. But as far as Model A goes, I think, like you said, there would be the least amount of friction in terms of the transition because you're already going with 4.
Yeah,
you wouldn't necessarily. The only friction would come in deciding which of the 2 clubs will be funded less.
So they haven't. So putting this model out there, they actually haven't separated of who would have the most money in 2.
No,
so
there are no names. There's no.
But it hasn't got any money.
Has it?
What's the money? So say 2 teams. What are they going to be getting?
Yeah. So here we go. So the elite, the two in the higher teams.
It can be anyone.
Their playing budget would be 6.7 million, which is up from the current 4.6.
Yeah.
And the development, the budget would be 5.2. So in this model, even the development regions would have a playing budget higher than what they have in the current PRA agreement.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
But that's also a very small, well, it's not a small amount of money, but a very small difference between what the development team get and the elite get.
Yes.
Ultimately rendering the whole thing slightly pointless. I would say.
Well, yeah, you'd surely want it to be quite a bit more for them to have a bigger budget than they got now and classed as the development team.
Exactly.
Seems a little bit.
The WRU goes into a lot of detail in terms of the feasibility on a commercial and playing side of things. And I'll quote directly now. It says, there will be a moderate increase in squad quality in 2 clubs, but they obviously recognise that the development teams would go down in terms of quality. But wages will remain at an uncompetitive level for top talent. So they don't see that as competitively feasible. It also...
What about National Academy? Sorry, will that still be under that?
So the National Academy is so far only part of their optimal system.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the academies would still stay in the individual clubs.
So the clubs will have obviously right. Okay, so
Sorry, not to get ahead of ourselves. I think a lot of people really like the idea of a national academy.
Yeah.
But for it to very obviously be placed in the D or D plus now, as we're calling it, just to make it even more complicated for everyone who's listening.
I'm looking forward to going through that.
Yeah.
So Model A then that's not really going to happen.
I think the last point to mention with Model A is that it also requires the most private investment in their
which we probably aren't going to get, are we?
I think at the moment, and we can talk about this a little bit in more detail later, Welsh rugby is not an investable entity right now. You would be very, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to be diplomatic about it, but you would not bet money. That's essentially what investing can be at times.
Well, it isn't rugby, yeah.
On there being a good return on investment right now.
Okay.
I would say, I'm certainly not a financial advisor. People will probably take different views on this, but if you're wanting to put your money into rugby right now, you'd wait until probably 2027.
Yeah.
Until it's actually in place.
Right. Okay.
I think one of the interesting things to discuss, and it's completely different sport, so there's a myriad of reasons why this comparison doesn't work. But if you look at the way that the ECB went about the investment in the 100, there was a lot of scepticism about the 100, and yes, they had the backing of each of the apart from 3 of the counties, they had the backing of the majority of the stakeholders in English cricket. But they waited a few years for the 100 to prove itself as a competition before bringing in foreign investment.
So what were they waiting for? Like fan engagement? How people would
to be able to prove that fans were engaged, the sponsors were engaged, the players were engaged, and the 100 has worked as a commercial entity really, really well. And the investment, they bought around about foreign investment has bought around about 50% of the 100 for almost £500 million. So we're talking about an enormous injection of money into a sport that is not dissimilar to rugby in terms of being always chasing football as the second most popular sport in Britain.
So we can get it right. There is opportunities, isn't there? But
absolutely.
Of course, yeah. But you also need to line those people up sooner rather than later, and start talking about those conversations about exactly how much. And that's why it's helpful in the consultation period already, or in the document, that there are these numbers. Here's how much private investment, but more than likely it will be foreign investment into Welsh rugby, if not foreign internationally, certainly over the border.
Yeah. Okay, so Model A, anything else on that in terms of, that's probably likely not.
I don't think so. I think the only other point is, while we go through these numbers, is the WRU is keen to stress that they want to make this competitive, not only with the URC, but on a European level. So they've compared a lot of these budgets to English budgets and top 14 budgets.
Yeah, but, right,
I know. So the current English Premiership salary cap is 7.8 million plus one marquee player. So if you're Bath,
it's going up, I think.
It is going up. But the current one, if you're Bath, you're paying 7.8 to everyone else, and however much you like to Finn Russell. Yeah.
Pay whatever to keep him.
Yeah. And the top 14 is £9.2 million. It's about 10.3 million euros.
Average, is it?
Average. With Toulouse, I think, at around about 12 million euros. So I don't know how they're working it out there.
Toulouse are more than that, mate. They're paying. They pay that to DuPont, I think.
Exactly. But we'll move on to Model B, shall we?
Yeah, Model B, 3 elite teams, or I guess funded the exact same.
Yeah.
Would require one reason to be cut. Budgets go up a lot. The current 4.6, this to 6.9. Requires most funding by the WRU, 121 million over 5 years. So this is the expensive model, I'm guessing. It's
the expensive model, and I think it's also the model that most people would say is not the optimum. And I say that by, it means having to choose just one region to pick on here. At least with 2, and almost scrapping the whole thing really, and creating 2 new entities, you could make the argument that some people will actually enjoy that.
This was quite a popular. I did a poll, and a lot of people picked Model B.
Yeah.
And I think they obviously just assume.
But that's because they assume that their club isn't the one that's going to be cut.
I think
If you're
so,
a Cardiff fan, you don't believe the Cardiff is
No.
going to go. If you're an Ospreys fan, you don't believe Ospreys is going to go. If you're a Scarlets fan, you don't believe.
Yeah, and obviously
Exactly.
everyone just thinks the Dragons would be, but they're the most probably stable club.
Well, they're the only one
yeah.
making a profit at the minute.
Yeah.
And the only ones that own their ground as well.
Well, we don't need to talk about who would be the club anyway, but like in terms of as a model, it's probably no go, is it really? In terms of they talk about finances,
I
this
think
is not
the other
they're
one
not
is,
feasibly able to do
as
it.
well is the point that they make is that they need to create a model that also allows some money to be reinvested into the rugby ecosystem. Currently, there is no money invested in
So no schools, no national academies,
schools, no national academy,
nothing.
nothing for the
No
women's
SRC.
game, no SRC. So this model does not free up any more money, and I'll quote again: there is high pressure on WRU funding because this is the one that they, compared to A, has slightly less private investment.
Right, we'll move on then because that is
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's very unlikely,
Right.
I have to say.
Model C, 2 elite teams and then 1 development team. So 1 cut, obviously, and then 1 budget will be cut with one of the teams. All elite teams will be on 6.9 million with 5.4 for the... like, that just seems like hardly any difference.
Yeah.
5.4 million for the development club. So they're still earning more than they're on now.
Yes.
Requires 116 million over 5 years from the WRU. So still no money into schools, national academies, SRC, blah, blah, blah.
So slightly different to B. There is some money freed up because you have one of the clubs going from 6.9 to 5.4. That's $1.5 million budget each year over 5 years. That some of that would go into
It's
the ecosystem, but we're talking
5 mil.
We're
over
talking
$1 million. Then, yeah.
actually we're talking 2.7 million over 5 years is what they say would go into the ecosystem. So it is
Right,
like a
okay.
drop in the ocean.
That will not go very far.
So what? That's not going to do much, is it?
No. Again, the private investment goes down slightly because the budgets are slightly lower.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that came across talking to Abby is that they are quite keen to make this, at least on the playing side, WRU funded and not at the whims of private investment.
That rugby-wise, you're on about now?
Yes,
Yeah.
Rugby Costs.
Rugby costs. So then they're relying on obviously commercial into...
Exactly. And then allowing the new clubs, whoever they end up being, or the existing ones if they stay, to take full control over things like ticketing, merchandise, and perhaps even more importantly, being able to utilise their grounds.
But they're not in control of the club, though, are they?
Exactly.
Not on the playing
So,
side.
yeah, but that so in theory they're not really. Yeah, so their identity is they're working with the WRU.
They would.
So it's
yes.
very different to what it is now.
Exactly.
I think that we need to obviously reiterate that.
For
a little bit
sure,
as well.
yeah. But they're paying for the players, but not for essentially how everything is.
So they choose
around
how
it.
many games they play, minutes, when they, with the obviously the fallow week and the internationals and so forth. Is that, I guess they take control of everything of that.
I think in their optimal system, at least on D, where everyone is based in the same national campus, which we'll get onto later, they would have control over the playing side of things.
Okay,
Yes.
right. That's Model C. Anything else on to break down with that one?
I just think that it's worth noting that in almost every single one, it's quoted directly that the loss of some players is inevitable.
Is this the cons now? I guess.
Yeah, so this is when the WRU are weighing up the pros and cons of the feasibility of doing this, and almost every single one, particularly the ones that require cutting regions, so the BCD, means that players will be out of work basically.
Yeah, and obviously that's the sensitive sort of subject, isn't it? In terms of, but if we're honest, there's probably a good few players that are doing well to be in the squads, anyway, in my opinion. Anyway. If anyone cares.
Sinclair Group has been part of the motor industry for over 80 years. That's not just a number, it's generations of trust built on shared values, because family isn't just who you're born to, it's who you choose to stand with, and that's what matters to us. We offer new and approved used vehicle sales and service for some of the world's biggest motor brands, and trust, that's at the heart of it all. So whether you're starting your journey or continuing a legacy, visit sinclairgroup.co.uk. Belong for good.
Right, moving on. Model D.
Model D.
Here we go. 2 elite teams. Key points: 2 teams cut. Big budgets at 8 million each plus coaching budget, highest 2.1 mil. Brings it in line with the English Premiership budget of around 7.88 million plus 1 marquee player. So Bath pay about 9 mil for Finn Russell. Private investor funding, lowest of the 4 options, 17 mil.
Yeah.
Same with the WRU funding, 94 mil.
Yeah.
Less pressure of fund rugby costs means more money for reinvestment into rugby, which it looks already a lot more.
So
Facilities, pathways, and national academy. So we're talking full bongo here, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned the 2.7 for Model C over 5 years, that balloons up with Model D to 25 million.
25 million
Over 5 years.
into schools, national academies, SRC,
Women's game.
women. This is the thing. This covers the women, 2 professional women's side as well.
D
this-
plus does, D plus.
Right.
Yeah. So essentially, that 25 million would also go to Dave Rennan's national campus, which he was asked about in comparison to
What,
his
to build?
experience. I think so, yeah.
Oh, you need more than 25 mil to
Well,
build that, I reckon. wouldn't you?
there will be some private investment in
So
that, I believe.
It's
as
going to be
well.
like a St George's, is it? I
Yes.
guess, with
Yeah.
football.
He worked with the FA for a long time and helped establish St George's Park and did the EPP, which I'm now forgetting what it actually stands for, but essentially built the academy system in England that has brought through all this talent that we now see
Right.
in the England squad.
It's hard
He-
to disagree with that,
his-
isn't it?
his-
The 21s and stuff.
His ideal is that there would be a Welsh rugby version of that.
Right.
And the starting point of that is D freeing up that 25 million for
So
over a
much
5
more,
year
isn't it?
period.
It
What-
is.
You would require more, yes.
Okay, let's go through the cons first,
Sure.
and then we'll finish on the pros for that, because obviously you've still got D plus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess a lot of players are going to be out of job. Staff.
Yes. Yeah. So
the main
we're talking
important
about a 45 player squad for 2 teams, so 90 players 90 professional players playing in Wales.
Was it 134 plus now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you're looking at 40 odd players, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which will be really hard to stomach. But ultimately, are there 40 players that could be cut?
So is this 45 senior?
Senior.
And then obviously you're going to have probably
20 academy.
20 national for both sides. That's 40 there.
Yeah.
So these squads of 130 now, that is with academy, or is that senior? I think it's senior, isn't it?
I think that's
So you're
Senior,
looking at about
yeah.
40
Across
senior
4
players
clubs.
40
There'd be
senior
more.
players, yeah.
will be out of work.
Yeah.
Obviously, plus staff then as well, because I think we need to reiterate how much staff
Of course.
that are behind these
Absolutely.
clubs. You know,
Absolutely.
whether it's commercial, marketing, there's so much more.
If clubs are going, people are losing their jobs,
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
that's vitally important to keep in mind throughout this whole process. If you throw your weight behind Model B or C, there is still a club going
Yeah.
and a whole culture and a whole team of people that have helped build that club, and it's important
Yeah.
to keep that in mind.
All right.
For every individual player that won't continue in Wales, if Model D is gone, you're probably talking 5 or 6 people around them who will not continue
Yeah.
working as well.
Any more cons?
I think in terms of, and this was actually raised, but I'll mention it in a second, by actually Joe Hawkins, who's just re-signed for Scarlets, but he's of the opinion that the lack of academy spaces available. So in Model D, you would only have 40 academy spaces in Wales. He's of the opinion, and he's someone who broke through young in Wales and moved across the board to Exeter. He's of the opinion that young Welsh players will forego academy places to join your Baths, your Bristols that we've seen currently in the Welsh 20s. There are a hell of a lot of Exeter, Bath, and Bristol players currently in the academy system.
But I guess to play devil's advocate, that is, we will have obviously a smaller academy base, but our level of quality in that will be an awful lot higher.
That's the
So
idea.
You'd
in
hope so.
theory, you're like, I think Jonathan Davis said quite a good quote in terms of you're throwing a fish in there, but you're not throwing a net. You're throwing little crab one, aren't you? So you're picking out the the best ones, aren't you?
I get you.
In that sort of quote, like, you know what I mean? Like you're handpicking the best ones rather than, oh, let's throw a massive net and grab loads and loads, because there's obviously certain kids that aren't going to be professional rugby players at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's an argument on both sides, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
And perhaps something to bring up as well is that we had the recent news of Louis Rees-Zammit coming back into Welsh, well, hopefully back into the Welsh national team. But there wasn't even seemingly any consideration that he would join a team in Wales at this current moment.
no chance.
Exactly. And that's because of finances. That's because, all right, you've got a good pay packet up in America for a year or so, but ultimately Wales...
Like we pay you here. No,
if you want to stick me in the NFL, I think I'll do it all right.
All right, let's go.
Just quickly on that point, though, is just that if Wales want to be successful in terms of a brand, you need to have the best Welsh players playing in Wales.
Yeah, of course you do. But you will do with this because
exactly.
I think.
But I'm not convinced that with the other models, A, B and C, that you will have that in its entirety. D is the optimum when it comes to having the best players.
Well, I think I haven't. Obviously, I did it with 50 players on average of 7.8 million. It's 156 grand average. Like that is a lot. That's average.
Yeah,
that's big.
But there is a lot less money,
like.
And in the other.
So 45, it would be even more. It's going to be even more. So. This is the thing. You'll be able to keep your best players. That's where we've probably not been at a point to be able to do it.
That's the whole argument of Model D, is that no one is going to have their head turned by Toulon or Northampton when they've earned 30 caps and they're going to still play
France is pretty nice.
Saint-Tropez or Swansea,
or Nice or something like that.
On a money side of things,
right.
The ideal is that you don't get to 30 caps at the age of 25 and you think, my contract at so-and-so is expiring at the end of the year. I can sign 2 years, live in France with my young family and come back and still play for Wales for those 2 years. They want... One of their key concerns, and there are a few quite interesting graphs about this, was about cohesion at national level and the percentage of your national squad, so 23 for each game, was provided by what they described as the top 2 performing teams. Now, Ireland with Leinster are outperforming everyone in the world. So Leinster and Munster provide 81% of Ireland's 23 each game. The 2 top performing Welsh teams in recent years are Ospreys and Cardiff, and they provide about 50% each game. They want that up at Ireland levels, if not more, because you would be bringing everyone into the ecosystem.
This is that point he keeps coming back to about that high performance winning, I guess, sort of thing. Let's go to a couple of pros then with this, obviously, Model D.
I think one we just mentioned, the cohesion point, they want everyone in the building. So they want, you mentioned the windows about having Welsh players for certain games during the, we're going to see it in the Autumn Internationals. So there's going to be a game outside the window.
Well, you just get flogged that week anyway. But I know
but
what you mean.
But in theory, if you have everyone available against South Africa and 4 years down the line when Steve Tandy's master plan has come through and we're ranked 4th in the world and we've won 6 Nations, you don't have that issue where you play the Springboks and you're without 10 of your best players because they play in England and France and the window is closed. So that on the top level, and I realise a lot of this conversation is not about international rugby, it is about regional rugby first, but they believe that Model D and their D+ model is the best for international rugby, and they understandably see that as the best way to bring in revenue because a winning Wales team.
Well, where's their cash cow? Sorry, that is the senior men's team, isn't it?
100%.
Of course, if you're paying, if you're charging 80 quid a ticket, you're charging 80 quid a ticket. You want to watch a decent rugby performance, and you're not getting that at the minute. I think the biggest pro from a financial and from a business side for Model D and Model D+, it was something that Abby said that really pricked my ears up, which was that these regions would become profitable very quickly, and that they would become, in her words, an investable proposition, essentially saying that this is the golden goose.
This is the bet on how they're putting the house on.
This is the one that is going to make
high
us
risk,
more money,
high reward, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think what you got to say is as well is that she was very clear to say this was a sporting decision first, then a financial one. But it's very interesting that the financial decision, or the best financial outcome, is also the best sporting one, in their view. Those things very rarely marry up in sports. Very, very rarely.
Right.
So you've got to say, if they're going out to bat for one, and it's all of a sudden the best for financial, best for sporting, where are those sums coming from?
Yeah. Right. Let's go. Model D+.
D+.
This is the
Right,
optimal system that the WRU have put forward, and in my eyes, I think they've already chosen, to be honest.
This is the one that also tripped up quite a few journalists, because there were quite a few questions at the press conference about along the lines of, you've chosen D as your optimal model, and then very quickly Abby or Dave would come in and say, actually, we're not going with D. We prefer to use the word term D+, because, and as I'm about to explain...
I got a few D+s in my GCSEs.
I was going to say, what would you say the state of Welsh rugby is better than D+ at the minute?
D+. All right, can I go through it?
Please.
You can,
So this is the D+, right? So be more players in the squad, so it'll be 50. Very few non-Welsh players, so I think you're only allowed 2 per team.
Yeah.
So that'll be 4, only 1 in the 23 or 15.
I believe so, yeah. That's the target. I don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't released any specifics about WRU control over selection and things like that. Obviously that was a row that happened during the PRA.
Well, that's a long way down the line.
Yeah,
anyway,
that is
isn't it?
yeah. But we'll leave that for now.
Both clubs, this is men's and women's, by the way. So we'll have 4 professional teams in Wales.
Yeah.
A base at a new national campus. So he's got the idea of, like we spoke about earlier, about St. George's, everything being aligned. I think that's one of the big words he used. I don't know if he used it today, is everyone being aligned.
Yeah.
And I guess being in the same building, which for me as a player would be pretty weird.
Sinclair Group has been part of the motor industry for over 80 years. And in that time, we've learned it's not just about cars, it's about the impact we leave behind. We believe in driving change, supporting the people around us where we live and work. Because when our communities thrive, we all do. We offer new and approved used vehicle sales and service for some of the world's biggest motor brands. But what drives us goes far beyond the road. So whether you're starting your journey or continuing your legacy, visit sinclairgroup.co.uk. Belong for good.
I think it's worth us saying as well, because a narrative is already beginning to form that...
But they knew that was going to happen, though, didn't they?
Well,
like saying this was the optimal headlines, isn't it?
But I've certainly seen some headlines that suggest, or people saying that the 2 Welsh regions that could be cut are being cut to create 2 women's teams, which is just simply not the case.
Well, no, because they're all
but there are already 2 professional women's teams.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I think the other argument as well, the other question would be raised, well, hang on a minute, how much is it going to cost to build this new national base?
I think that's a far more personal question than the women's side of the game, where, like Dan said, they already run Brython Thunder and Gwalior Lightning. Literally, the only thing that would change on the women's side of things is there would be more investment. They've already committed. Just go into a bit more detail, they've already committed, a bit like the URC, they're going to stay in the Celtic Challenge, which for people don't know is a 6-team tournament with 2 Irish and 2 Scottish teams, rather than join the much more sort of commercially viable PWR, which is the professional women's rugby professional women's rugby in England, albeit they want, in the ideal D+ model, they want the budgets to be the same as the PWR. Now, the slight complicating factor there is they want to make the women's teams in the D+ fully professional. A lot of the squads in PWR are filled out on the back half of talent by semi-professional and part-time contracts. It's not a fully professional league yet.
Right.
All the top England players have central contracts. So their contracts are
23
essentially.
players.
There is a middle class of players who are fully professional, and there's a bottom tier that are semi-professional.
Right, okay.
So they want to make the 2 teams fully professional, and I think one thing that has slightly been lost in this has been made by a point made by a few commentators, is that this D+ would almost immediately make the women's game in Wales so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
And that is where the commercial growth really is at the
Oh,
minute.
in women's sport, 100%. I think no one's denying that.
You've got to think that 21,000 people came to watch Wales play at the Principality. There's a Principality game again at the next Six Nations, 2 games at the Arms Park, and also the types of people it attracts, a younger audience. Lots of kids at these games, but also the adults that it attracts are generally from a more affluent area, so they have more disposable income. So whilst obviously you couldn't throw all your weight behind the women's team and not the men's, that's where the growth really is. And I think, to be fair to Abby, she understands that.
Does it change the amount of money that will go into, I guess, like the school system and trying to obviously, 25 mil, is it still going to be?
Yeah, so that I think that's slightly frustrating. That's the most vague part of the sort of the document. They describe it as the rugby ecosystem, which I think, in layman's terms, is everything apart from the elite men's system.
Right.
So
they haven't really narrowed down, like, right, we need to sort the school system
facilities,
out. Because we're losing too many players, aren't we? Really?
Well, yeah, pathways, national academy, things like that all come as a whole, which is slightly frustrating. In fair credit to the WRU, the document is very comprehensive and gives us a lot of insight into what they're planning. There are still some vague areas which need to be sorted out. And definitely will be brought up.
There's so much detail for me, I think.
Consultation
needs to be sorted out.
I need to see these plans that say that the regions will be profitable very quickly. They must
classes very quickly.
What exactly? And what are those models? They say it's down to the modelling that they've been using. This is a key thing that needs to be scrutinised, because if it doesn't come to fruition and say a year after all these changes are made, if we end up going with D+, the WRU is still losing money. There needs to be a measurable way of looking at how the performance has gone compared to how it was expected to go. And obviously outside of rugby, things like big events, Oasis and Taylor Swift, etc., are going to help the bottom line of Welsh rugby. But I don't think it's going to be much of a saving grace if ultimately...
Well, no, we never used to rely on that, did it? The men's game was the one.
Exactly.
But it always comes back to that, I think one of the lads said something around, I think since 2008 to 2021, I think we worked out we won a championship nearly every 3 years. Does that work about right? 8,
12, 13, 19, 21, yeah.
Yeah,
five in 13 years.
So...
It's silly.
Yeah. There's arguments for both. So, lads, I'm going to ask you, which one are we going for?
Oh, thank God it's not down to us to decide.
No, obviously, they're not going to care what we say. And I don't think we really I don't think we really need to have an opinion on it, really. But we spoke through all the pros and cons of each one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it will be about, a lot of people are going to be emotional to a team, aren't they? So to see your local team or your team you go and support, that's going to be the biggest to overcome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when these guys speak to all the stakeholders over the next 6 weeks. But I think if you read in between the lines, I think people would, if they really just put their emotions to side, I think they'd know the right
I think the key point to make
model
at this point, after we've laid everything out, is that nobody is in agreement that things are going well in Welsh rugby. And therefore, if things don't change in some way, shape or form, and you can have debates till you're blue in the face as to what those changes should be, if things don't change, then we're just going to have more of the same.
Exactly. So let's hope there will be change, and I think there certainly will be, and I guess we could probably do this pod again in 6 weeks' time.
I think we probably can, yeah.
And we see, I will try and be away. No, I'm joking.
Well, the one thing I was going to ask you is you're obviously only just removed from the playing side of things, and you're still very good friends and in contact with a lot of people who play in Welsh rugby. Have you got an early sense of what the player reaction is like to this? Are they? I know the WRU have made commitments to their contracts and things like that.
Yeah.
But there must be some, whether it's a motivation factor, whether it's
more
a despondency that they might not have a job in 3 years' time.
Yeah, I think one is they're a bit frustrated about there's been no accountability of how it's gone. Like they've just come straight out. These are the models, not we're really sorry in terms of like how we've got to this situation. They're not been very sympathetic, have they? In the way they've probably delivered it. I think that's a lot of boys have been a bit peed off with. And obviously, it's tough because they're going to be emotional. If you're part of a team that they're probably going to be gone in 2 years, it's tough to have any motivation to sort of want to be there, isn't it? It's really tough. And same with staff.
Yeah.
If you haven't got a job for 2 years, you're not going to hang around, are you?
If you were still playing now, Al, what would you think is the what would you?
What if I was in the team that was looking like me, it was going to
exactly, or for that matter, having to sign for a team that has no history, no clear fan base.
I think as a player, you just want to play rugby, don't you? But you're going to be selfish enough at the start to be like, hang on a minute, I don't. It'd be hard to me to be part of a team that I know it's not going to be there in 2 years. So you've got to put yourself first, haven't you, in terms of, imagine if you got injured in those 2 years and then you don't get a part in any of those other 2 teams. It's really hard because I've obviously never been in that situation. I've been in situations where we're about to go on strike before England and 2 teams merging. I thought I've seen it all, but this is another level now, isn't it? So it's pretty tough. I think there'll be players that will be really worried about their future because I think, if you're looking at 100 players and you're not quite that first team player in your team now, you're going to struggle to get a contract, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And that is what I hope the union really help those players with in terms of re-education or, along those lines anyway.
Yeah.
These lads that may be, just good squad players, but obviously not quite good enough for the top 2 teams. So I hope they don't just get despondent and forgotten because they're pretty good at doing that, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Let's have a quick one because I'm going to probably speak about it next week in the pod, but the Women's World Cup. Wales got Scotland Saturday, must win. Sean Lynn, good win against Australia, then got obviously smashed in the Oval. The same pitch I played the week, actually day before.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I saw there was a bobble there.
Scored a lovely try, actually, and set one up. But no, big game for Wales, isn't it? This is
massive.
Be a good start for if they can beat Scotland. This would be big.
Just a quick overview of the tournament. 4 teams of 4 pools of 4 teams. So it's slightly different to previous editions where it's only been 12 teams. But it means that even more likely for Wales that they need to be in the top 2. So there's no best third place. So in the last World Cup, they were in a group with New Zealand, Australia, and Scotland, and beat Scotland with a last-minute penalty from Daniel Bevan. But in losing to Australia and New Zealand, they came third, but made it to the quarterfinals as the best third place. Right. This one, only the top 2 go through. So now they're in a pool with Canada, who are the second-ranked team in the world. They're phenomenal. Them and New Zealand are probably most likely to play England in the final at Twickenham. And then with Scotland again, Scotland ranked 7th in the world, Wales ranked 8th. So it's very, very close, incredibly close game in the Six Nations in Sean Lynn's first game in charge. And then Fiji, who have the added intrigue of Johan Cunningham, who is Wales' last coach. He is now in charge of Fiji.
Well, that's good for Wales then.
Well, I think they'll know a fair amount about how Fiji want to play.
I don't know. I think Sean Lynn is he's a pretty different coach to Johan Cunningham, and they'll be a totally different team. So we wish the girls all the best, and I'm expecting records all around for crowds.
Absolutely,
this World Cup.
Yeah.
England obviously favourite. There's going to be
they are
sell out Twickenham semi-final. I'd have thought.
Yeah, they are absolutely desperate for this to be. I think
especially
it's
the women's
been mentioned
football.
a lot.
Yeah.
Their Euros moment. If England can, England have remarkably they've got to the last 6 World Cup finals in the women's and have only won it once.
If they don't win,
the last time they won it was in 2014. They've lost the last 2 World Cups to New Zealand, so they do not want to face New Zealand in the final.
They had a red card, didn't they?
They did have a red card, and it was a last-minute try.
I think it'd be a good tournament, wouldn't it? I think
it will, and I think where you've seen in Australia that Wales are growing. To beat Australia is a pretty decent coup at this stage in their development, and I think the decisions he's making, particularly with the team, the 2 new captains, Kate Williams and Alex Callender, look very, very good because you've got the two flankers that are basically undroppable as your captains, and it works. They lead by example on the pitch. They're very, very good talkers off the pitch as well. I was at the squad announcement press conference, and you're just very impressed by each of them, including Sean as well. They talk a lot about the family and about growing together, and you can kind of see that already. It was difficult in the Six Nations when he literally had 5 days on the job before they were up to Scotland to play their first game. You can see in those games in Australia that they're building something, and it'll be similar with Steve Tandy in the autumns. You have to give this thing time when they're growing from a low base. And
we got patience, mate.
Well, I think we've seen it
with Welsh rugby.
I think we've seen over the last couple of days that we need a lot of patience. So on the pitch and off the pitch, let's hope they do well.
Yeah, right. Well, I've got another pod next week with a couple of lads who have got a bit to say, so that'll be a good one. Dan, any business in pods coming in?
We do. I don't know if we want to say who yet. We'll keep it as a surprise.
Okay, we'll keep that going. Right.
Keep it on the feeds.
Yeah.
Probably chat a bit about Steve Tandy next week. You haven't got enough time to talk to you about you today, mate. But lads, thanks for having us. A lot to talk about. This is going to be never ending, isn't it? The next 6-7 weeks. So
Yep.
look forward to seeing the conclusion of this. So thanks for joining and thanks for listening. Sportin Wales podcast, powered by Sinclair Group, your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.